I also see that you worked on an action plan for environmental and human well-being.
Right, which I'll give you a copy of before you.
I would love to see it. For environmental sustainability, and you presented it to the UN Secretary General.
Right.
What is outlined in that action plan, and how would you arrive at a kind of parameter for sustainability? Like, how do you establish how much a system can take?
Yeah, I mean, there is no general answer to that question. Okay. So, because there's no general, first of all, let me tell you the process we went through in creating that report. The process we went through in creating that report was to put together a task force with experts from around the world. So it wasn't just some experts from Colombia or the United States.
Okay.
It was experts from all the continents around the world who have had a lot of experience with trying to make things work, and having had a lot of experience with failure. Right. Because if you try to make things work, they fail often. And so that was what we did, and we worked for 3 years actually, pulling together lots of information, talking to lots of other people, hundreds of practitioners. So when we created the report has a set of recommendations, but the recommendations are sort of categorical recommendations, not specific recommendations like you should do X. Because in that category, for instance, in sustaining fresh water, right, it really is going to depend on where you are as to what you do. Mm-hmm. So we laid out sort of the goals you should try to achieve, not the means to get there. Because the means will vary in different national contexts, different regional systems that have different ecologies and different rainfall patterns and whatever, right? So the idea is to lay out the goals, but not the means. And this was arrived at among this group of 25 experts from around the world over this period of time, consulting many, many other people. And I think it's a very good and robust set of goals. And now, you know, various individuals are trying to implement those in different national contexts.
Okay, and so were you a U.S. representative with this group, or?
The group was set up to have 2 co-chairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the co-chair, essentially representing the developed world.
Okay.
And the other co-chair was the former Minister of Environment from Ecuador, Yolanda Cacabatzi, and she was representing the developing world. Okay. And then we put together a series of experts from the developed and developing world in order to get as much a perspective as we possibly could. I was very proud of the fact that we were able to get a lot of women onto the committee, which many of these UN committees are incredibly depauperate of women on them. They have what I call the usual suspects. So it was very nice. And then, as I said, we were able to represent, you know, most of the major geographical areas.
Okay. And since you were outlining more goals and like specific regulations to achieve the goals, did you see that the developed and developing nations had similar viewpoints on like what they wish?
I think that there was a to me, an incredible meeting of minds.
Okay.
It's not to say that, you know, some people's goals or aspirations seemed a little impractical or naive, and that others weren't willing to tell them that they were. That happened a lot. But it was, you know, there were vigorous debates about issues, a lot of back and forth. But ultimately, we settled on a set of goals that I think pretty much everyone was able to sign on to, and which was very nice. Now, of course, nobody was serving in any official capacity as a representative of a government. They were serving as a representative of the scientific community, the NGO community, some government representatives as well. But I think we had a good cross-section and a good set of perspectives that we were able to somehow knit together to come up with a set of objectives.
And I'm just curious, was environmental justice, like that movement, represented at this stage, or is that more of, I guess, a more...
No, we have, if you read the report, you'll see we have written into it. It was not a separate item, okay, or a separate set of goals, but you'll see written into the report is certainly a lot about equity. Okay. And that drives a lot of the issues in the environment. It's often overlooked, or seen as a side issue, but it actually drives a lot of what is possible or not possible.
Right. definitely a major